method so effective it was avoided in therapy not because it failed, but because it bypassed the mind and went straight to the root. True transformation does not come from more thinking. It comes from stillness, presence, and focused awareness. This is the brain hack that works, not through complexity, but through simplicity and discipline. Ladies and gentlemen, a sword in the hands of a skilled warrior brings peace, but in the hands of the unaware it brings destruction. The same is true of the mind. Yet most people don't realize it. They believe every thought they think, they follow every emotion they feel, and they assume that what arises in the mind is who they are. But this is the first and most dangerous illusion of all. You are not your thoughts. Your mind is not you. It is a tool. A powerful one, but still just a tool. The real problem is not the thoughts themselves. It is the identification with them. Most people spend their entire lives trapped inside their own mental dialogue, believing every fear, every doubt, every story the mind creates, and so they suffer, not because of the world, but because they are prisoners of their own minds. Imagine sitting by a river and watching leaves float by. The leaves are your thoughts. They come and go. Some are light and beautiful, others are heavy and dark. But you are not the leaves, you are the one watching them. Yet in modern life, people forget this. They jump into the river, they grab every leaf, they try to change them, chase them, or drown in them. This is suffering, and it comes from forgetting the simple truth. You are not the content of your mind, you are the awareness behind it. In the Shaolin tradition, we train not to fight enemies, but to master the inner battlefield. This battlefield is silence versus noise, stillness versus chaos, presence versus distraction. And the greatest victory is not in defeating others, but in no longer being controlled by our own thoughts. Monks meditate not to escape life, but to wake up to it through silence, through observation, through repetition. They create space, and it is in that space that freedom begins. When you sit in silence, you begin to notice something curious. Your thoughts come like waves, sometimes strong, sometimes soft, but always moving. And if you do not react, if you do not judge, if you simply observe, a distance begins to form between you and them. This distance is sacred. In that space, you begin to realize, I am the witness, not the thinker. I am the sky, not the clouds. I am the presence, not the noise. Once this realization takes root, everything begins to change. You stop reacting to every opinion, every emotion, every memory, and you begin to act from a place of clarity instead of confusion. You no longer rush to fix every thought you don't like. You allow it to pass like wind through bamboo. The thought moves, the bamboo bends, but the root remains firm, untouched. This is what most therapy misses. It teaches you to analyze the leaf, to understand the leaf, to trace the history of the leaf. But what if the real shift is not in analyzing the content, but in recognizing your true position as the one who watches it all? The monks do not fix their thoughts. They outgrow them, not by force, but by awareness. They let them pass like clouds, knowing the sky remains untouched. This is why this method, this brain hack, is so powerful. It is too effective. It reveals that you already have everything you need. Not in the world, not in books, but in the space between your thoughts. The system cannot sell you awareness. It cannot patent stillness. It cannot monetize presence. And so, the true path is hidden or dismissed. To begin is simple. Sit for 5 minutes each morning and do nothing. Do not try to clear your mind. Do not try to stop your thoughts. Just sit and watch. Watch the breath, watch the body, watch the mind move like wind. And as you sit longer, you will begin to notice something beautiful. You are not the wind, you are the mountain, you are not the thought, you are the observer. As the days pass, the mind will still speak, but you will no longer believe every word it says. It will shout, but you will not tremble. It will tempt, but you will not move. This is power, not the power to control the world, but the power to remain centered while the world spins around you. When you master this internal posture, life becomes lighter. The mind no longer drags you into conflict. The emotions no longer drown you in confusion. Even the body begins to follow the stillness of the spirit. Your nervous system relaxes. Your breathing deepens. Your eyes become clear, and your presence begins to affect others without a word. This is not imagination. This is not belief. This is not therapy. This is practice, and it is practice that creates mastery. Monks are not born. They are forged through thousands of hours of returning to the breath, returning to the body, returning to awareness again and again and again, until they no longer forget who they truly are. And you can do the same, not by escaping your life, but by entering it fully with presence. Not by fixing your mind, but by watching it patiently until the illusion loses its grip. The key is to remember that thoughts are not truth. Emotions are not identity. The mind is not master, it is servant, and it must be trained like the body, like the breath, like the posture. To live this way is not easy, but it is real, and once you taste it, once you feel the difference between being inside your thoughts and standing beyond them, you will never go back. You will walk with peace, because you are no longer fighting yourself. And when the world throws chaos at you, you will not be shaken, because you are no longer inside the storm. You are the calm behind it. Let the mind speak, let it shout, let it cry, and let it go. Watch it come and go like the tide, but remain who you are, not moved, not broken, not caught. This is not philosophy. This is not motivation. This is not theory. This is discipline. This is training. This is the way. And this is only the beginning. When the body becomes still, the mind follows. When the body becomes disciplined, the mind becomes sharp. This is one of the deepest truths hidden in plain sight, yet forgotten by most in the modern world. People try to fix the chaos in their minds by thinking more, by talking more, by overanalyzing. But the Shaolin path teaches something very different and very ancient. Begin with the body, train the body, discipline the body, and the mind will begin to follow without resistance. In the monastery we rise before the sun, not because it is easy, but because it is essential. The body does not want to move in the cold morning hours, but that is where the transformation begins. When the body says no, and you say yes, something changes inside of you. This is not punishment, it is preparation. It is purification through repetition, through discomfort, through stillness in motion. The modern world teaches comfort as the highest value, but the Shaolin path teaches that discomfort is the doorway to mastery. When you push the body beyond what it prefers, the mind begins to stretch beyond its limits. When you hold a posture in stillness, when you repeat a movement 1,000 times, when you breathe through pain without flinching, you are not just building strength, you are building presence. You are training the nervous system to remain calm under pressure, to not react to noise, to not run from challenge. This is the hidden wisdom. The body is not separate from the mind, they are one system. When you sit with a straight spine, the mind becomes alert. When you breathe slowly, the heart rate drops and thoughts lose their speed. When you move with precision and focus, you silence the inner dialogue without needing to force it to stop. The body speaks, the mind listens, and suddenly peace begins to arise from a place that thinking alone can never reach. In the temple, we do not train only for combat, we train for clarity. We train so that when life strikes, we do not crumble. We train so that when pressure comes, the body remembers and the mind follows. When you repeat a form again and again, the body becomes stable, the breath becomes steady, and the storm inside begins to dissolve. A person who cannot sit still will never find peace. A person whose breath is shallow will always live in anxiety. A person who has no control over their own body will forever be ruled by external forces. Therapy often begins with talking, but Shaolin begins with standing, with breathing, with walking, with presence, brought into every movement until nothing is automatic and everything becomes a meditation. The modern mind is like a wild horse. It runs everywhere. It pulls in every direction. It exhausts itself trying to chase peace. But a wild horse cannot be tamed with words. It must be trained, and the training does not begin with shouting. It begins with patience, with consistency, with showing up every day and choosing structure over chaos, effort over laziness, stillness over speed. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, the nervous system adapts. You become less reactive, more grounded, more present. When you hold a horse stance and your legs shake and the mind begs you to stop, you meet yourself at your edge, and that meeting is what changes you, not because you won the fight, but because you stayed through it. This is the brain hack that works too well. It bypasses overthinking. It dissolves anxiety. Not by fixing thoughts, but by calming the system that fuels them. It teaches the mind to follow the breath, not the fear. It rewires the body to stay calm under pressure, and that calmness spreads through every area of life. Your relationships, your work, your inner dialogue, all shift because the foundation has shifted. Imagine facing conflict without panic. Imagine speaking with clarity even when provoked. Imagine walking through life with a quiet mind, not because it is empty, but because it is focused. This is not a dream. This is the natural result of physical mastery aligned with internal stillness. It is not about being the strongest. It is about being the most centered. People chase motivation, but motivation comes and goes. What remains is rhythm. What remains is habit. What remains is the body remembering how to return to center when the world tries to pull it away. In our training, we say the body is the gateway to the mind and the breath is the bridge between them. Train the body and you begin to control the breath. Control the breath and the mind begins to still. The reason this approach is so effective is because it deals directly with the root of most suffering. A nervous system stuck in overdrive, a body that is tense, a breath that is shallow, and a mind that is spinning. The moment you slow the breath and ground the body, everything else begins to change, without needing to be forced, without needing to be fixed. Dutch. This is not about building muscles. This is about building presence. When you move mindfully, you begin to reclaim the present moment. When you breathe deeply, you create space in the storm. When you train consistently, the body becomes your ally, and the mind learns to rest inside it, instead of running in fear of it. Most people are trying to escape their bodies. They numb them, they distract them, they avoid them. But the truth is the body holds the wisdom. The body remembers the truth. The body, when aligned, becomes the temple where the mind finds peace. Not through escape, but through embodiment. To walk this path, you do not need to be a monk. You only need to start with 10 minutes of movement each day. But make it mindful, feel every step, breathe through every repetition, and train not to impress, but to remember who you are beneath the noise. This is the power of embodiment. This is the clarity that discipline brings. Train until the body no longer resists stillness. Train until the breath flows without effort. Train until the mind stops running because it has nothing to run from, and you will see that peace was never somewhere else. It was always just beneath the noise, waiting for you. to return to it. The mind cannot lead the way until the body learns how to follow. The moment you honor the body, the moment you bring presence into motion, the moment you choose discipline over comfort again and again, you are not just changing your life, you are awakening it from the inside out. That is why this method remains hidden, not because it is secret, but because it is too simple, too direct, too effective, and because no one can sell you the discipline to train your own body to return to your own breath, to claim your own peace. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And in a world that constantly pulls your attention in every direction, it becomes very easy to lose your power, not because someone took it, but because you gave it away, piece by piece, every time you focused on distraction instead of intention. Most people do not understand this, but your attention is sacred. It is the gateway between your inner world and the outer world. And what you give it to shapes not only your experience but your identity. Distraction is not just an inconvenience, it is the silent thief of clarity. The moment your focus scatters, your energy weakens. And when your energy weakens, your actions lose their depth, and your mind begins to spin in noise. A mind without direction is like a river without bank. It floods everything without moving anything forward. Therapy often tries to understand the past. But clarity does not come from the past. It comes from mastering the present moment, and that mastery begins with attention. In the temple, we do not train to be productive. We train to be present, and that presence is cultivated through focus. When we strike, we focus only on the strike. When we breathe, we focus only on the breath. When we walk, we focus only on the steps. This is why focus is not a tactic, it is a spiritual practice. When you learn to hold your attention on one thing, everything begins to quiet down. The thoughts slow, the body relaxes, the emotions stabilize, not because you fought them, but because you no longer feed them with scattered energy. And that is the true medicine. You do not escape the chaos by resisting it. You outgrow it by focusing beyond it. Every moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your power. But focus is not natural anymore. Not in a world where everything is designed to break it. Every app, every sound, every screen is a battle for your inner temple, and most people lose that battle before the day even begins. The phone steals the first thoughts, the notifications dictate the first emotions, and before they have even taken a breath, they have already left themselves behind. That is why in the temple, the morning begins in silence, the breath, the movement, the stillness. These are not empty rituals. They are anchors. They train the mind to stay. They train the energy to gather. They train the self to awaken. And this is something no technology can offer because it does not require tools. It requires choice. The choice to focus, the choice to return. Attention is like fire. Left unchecked, it burns everything. But directed, it becomes light and warmth. When you train focus, you are not just improving your performance, you are sharpening your awareness. You are teaching the nervous system to remain centered, no matter the noise. You are choosing to live deliberately instead of reactively. And that choice builds peace, layer by layer. Imagine being in a conversation and fully listening, not waiting to respond, not thinking ahead, just present. Imagine working on something and losing all sense of time because you are so immersed that nothing else exists. Imagine sitting alone and feeling calm, not because you blocked out thoughts, but because you place your focus beyond them. This is the power of sustained attention. This is the clarity that cannot be shaken by chaos. People chase calm by trying to get rid of thoughts, but thoughts are not the problem. It is the attention that keeps jumping to them that causes suffering. When you learn to focus, your thoughts lose their grip. They become background noise and you no longer have to fight them because you have simply chosen to place your energy elsewhere. and where energy flows, life grows. In our training, we practice one movement again and again, not to perfect the move, but to perfect the mind behind it. Repetition brings depth, and in that depth, the mind learns how to stay one strike thousands of times, one breath thousands of times, one intention lived fully, not because it is easy, but because it is pure, and that purity begins to shape your entire being. Focus is not forced, it is allowed. It arises naturally when you remove what scatters it. When you sit in silence, when you move with purpose, when you train the body to be still, the mind begins to settle not as a trick, but as a response. And when the mind settles, you begin to see life with clarity. You begin to act from center, not from impulse. You begin to live as a warrior, not as a wanderer. This is why this brain hack is so effective. It requires no explanation, only application. You do not need to analyze your distractions. You only need to stop feeding them. You do not need to understand every thought. You only need to stop chasing them. You do not need more ideas. You need more attention to the ones that truly matter. The modern world does not reward focus, because focused people are harder to manipulate, harder to distract, harder to sell. To a focused person knows what they want and moves toward it. A distracted person can be pushed in any direction without resistance. And that is why presence is power. Not loud, not flashy, but steady and undeniable. You do not need to wait to begin. You do not need to fix everything first. You only need to bring your full attention to this moment, to your next breath, to your next action, and keep it there as long as you can. And when you lose it, bring it back again. And again, this is how mastery is built. This is how peace is reclaimed. Not in sudden breakthroughs, but in repeated returns. You have everything you need. The breath, the body, the intention. Now use them. Do not chase. Focus. Create it. Do not beg for clarity. Command it through. Where you place your mind, where you place your energy, where you place your life. And never forget, your focus is not just for achieving goals. It is for becoming the person who does not abandon themselves in the noise, who does not scatter in the storm, who stands firm even when everything around them tries to pull them away. Your focus is your return to yourself, your path back to the center, your quiet answer to the chaos of the world. And when you walk that path with full attention, you become unshakable, because nothing outside you is stronger than the presence within you. The greatest breakthroughs often come in silence, not in noise. And the most powerful transformations do not need words. They need space, the kind of space the modern world no longer allows. Filled with endless noise, opinions, distractions, and obligations, the soul never has room to breathe. But in the ancient path of self-mastery, silence is not absence, it is presence. It is the beginning of remembering what has been buried under stimulation for too long. When you sit in stillness, something begins to awaken, not because you added something new, but because you finally removed what was in the way. Clarity is not something you find, it is something that remains when the fog lifts. And the fog is often created by the need to understand everything, by the constant thinking that never rests the mind. Becomes like a river after a storm, muddy, fast, uncontrolled. But when you stop disturbing it, it clears on its own and reveals what was always beneath. This is why the most effective inner work often happens in solitude, not because you are escaping the world, but because you are returning to yourself. When you remove the opinions of others, the noise of culture, the expectations of society, you begin to hear a quieter voice, the one that has been guiding you all along, but was drowned out by the volume of everything external. This voice is not loud, it is steady, it is the voice of truth, and it does not argue, it simply waits for you to listen. In the temple, silence is not empty, it is full. It is respected more than speaking, because it holds the energy that words often waste in silence. The breath becomes audible. The heartbeat becomes a teacher. The body becomes a mirror. And the mind begins to soften not by effort but by surrender. The kind of surrender that is not weakness, but wisdom. The kind that says, I will stop forcing and start listening. Most people fear silence because they have never met themselves in it. They only know the version of themselves that performs, reacts, consumes. But in silence there is nothing to react to, nothing to perform, for just you.